ask. I mean, we were blessed to win gold in Atlanta in synchronized swimming, and the same Lillehammer. Few people remember our Lillehammer. Silver with synchronized skating, which was the, I think it was the inspiration for Blades of Glory. I don't know. I don't want to take credit for that, but I think that's what, like, Will Ferrell was channeling you when he did that. But compare those events, obviously personal for you, with what happened in Paris, because I will tell you, just sitting in my back lounger watching that, that may have been the coolest Olympics I've seen, and I mean, I've seen some great ones.
You were not alone in that thought. For me, by far, I've covered a bunch of them, by far the best Olympics, not a close second, just as an experience, the way it was run, how Team USA did, how the host country did, how France performed at its own games, and talking to people who've done many, many more around NBC Sports, around NBC News than I have, saying this was the best Olympics that they've ever been a part of. I thought the NBC coverage was incredible, the way they ran it on Peacock. The gold zone was so fun, like the red zone format from the NFL, where they bounce you around to the gold medal events. You got to watch everything you wanted to live, so the coverage back here was great. And as for Paris, always concerns when you drop the Olympics on an old city, and boy, did they accommodate them so well, using what they had, existing, obviously, beach volleyball underneath the Eiffel Tower. I went to fencing in the Grand Palais with that glass ceiling. You don't know you're a fencing fan until you see it that way. Incredible energy everywhere. The metro was flawless, got you to places you wanted to go easily. It was truly a spectacular, spectacular games. And there were a lot of people there from LA 2028 walking around, kind of seeing how things were going, okay, all right, a new standard has been set for how the Olympics should be run. So it was truly spectacular.
Yeah, it really has. And I mean, you look at our lower thirds, Olympics are rating gold for NBC and Peacock. Yay, go team. For people that haven't been around Morning Joe for a long time, we aren't company men and women. In fact, I think we're pretty merciless about the Beijing games, especially in the first week or so, with all the pollution and everything else. But it was. But still, I'm still take that lower third down. That's just, yeah. There you go. There you go. Okay, I can talk about it. We talked yesterday, so a lot of Olympic glory, but also media companies struggling. And what was interesting last week was, and you probably didn't catch it because you were in the middle of everything over there, but the same week we heard that Peacock was doing great streaming-wise. And historic, we also heard that Disney made their first profit in streaming. I mean, this is a long time coming. People see all the reports about media companies having to fire people, lay off people, et cetera, et cetera. Part of that problem is that advertising revenue had collapsed from linear and hadn't quite made it back up, with those points hadn't sort of reached with streaming, and suggests that these Olympics may be remembered for more than just an extraordinary sports story and extraordinary event, but also a pretty big media story as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a pivot point for Peacock and maybe for others, that now they can launch all their other products. They have people who come and enjoy the experience on Peacock. And like I said, it was, even for me, when you can't get out to all the venues, but you got to keep track. I mean, you just call up Peacock, you click on the icon of whatever the sport is, and there it is. It was very, very well done. And one other point that I had been thinking about a lot since I left Paris a couple of days ago, just kind of a bigger idea, is coming back to our politics, right where it is when I left, where it was, is just the spirit of the games. And I know it sounds corny and all that, but you see these athletes from all over the world, from all these different countries, cheering for themselves, cheering for each other, hugging each other, even when they lose, supporting each other. The positivity, the patriotism, and all the things that come with the Olympics that we've become accustomed to see, in contrast with what we live through every day. And we talk about our politics. People out there in the world are not behaving the way some of our politicians behave. I would put this is the best of us, these Olympic athletes, and they work their entire lives for these moments. And when they lose, they walk over and shake their hand and say, I'll be here at the next Olympics. It just, that vibe, and I know we only get to capture it for 2.5 weeks of the Olympics, was extraordinarily refreshing in contrast to our politics.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm so glad you said our politics, not even our countries. The point we try to make here all the time America is doing great. And by the way, I said this when Donald Trump was president. I said it when Barack Obama was president. I said it when George W. Bush was president, even though I had problems, so many problems, obviously, with Donald Trump, but also ideologically with the other guys I mentioned. I mean, we're stronger than ever economically. We're stronger than ever militarily. We're stronger than ever culturally. Our soft power, our hard power, everything. I mean, we've fed and freed more people than any other country on the planet. Americans are good people. Right now, our politics divide us. We need to move past that. We have got to stop this red and blue, sort of a black and white choice. And I think we can do that. But what you're talking about, Willie, it's just like at the beginning of the games, people tried to politicize it. They tried to politicize it at the end of the games, and Americans are like, you know what? I want to see Katie Ledecky swim.
That's right.
I want to see, keep your politics and your culture wars, like keep that on your little blog in your mom's basement. I'd like to see Simone Biles. I'd like to see the basketball team, on and on. It's just, it was pretty inspiring.
And if you doubt the power of the Olympics, watch the professional athletes who have all the fame and the money and the success they could ever want in the world. Watch the way Steph Curry and LeBron James, the two biggest stars in basketball, how they emoted during and after that game and what it meant to them. Watch Scottie Scheffler, the best golfer in the world, cry in the medal stand as they play the national anthem. Watch Novak Djokovic, the greatest men's player of all time in tennis, collapse to the ground after he won his gold medal. It really is something different. It really is something powerful, the Olympic Games.
Now, it really is. It really is. We have so much to talk about this morning. And I want to talk to David French in 1 minute. But I've got to say, Gene Robinson, I'm going to start with the Wall Street Journal editorial page. And, I agree with a lot of things they say. I disagree with a lot of things they say. I'm a bit befuddled with one of their editorials today, and it hits on a topic that actually drove me to Congress 30 years ago, and that is deficits, debt, federal spending, fiscal irresponsibility. We've got a $35 trillion debt right now. Nobody seems to care about it, but their editorial today suggests that Donald Trump should lecture Kamala Harris on deficits. This, Donald Trump, and anybody that's watched this show knows, Donald Trump has the worst fiscal record of any president in the history of the country. And you can go back and look at documents from Donald Trump's Treasury Department. They lay it out very clearly. Even before COVID, he was exploding the deficit. I tweeted something this morning as I was getting ready for the show after I read this, and it shows a line of the deficit going down like this under Barack Obama, going down from the 2008 collapse, and then shooting back up the second Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. So again, I am all for fiscal responsibility. In fact, that's that's what got me into this business in the first place. But to suggest that Donald Trump should lecture anybody on the deficit instead of writing an editorial talking about he was the most fiscally reckless president in U.S. history. He accumulated and amassed more debt in 4 years than America did. The Republic did its first 225 years of existence. That's the editorial to write and ask whether he's going to be any different if he gets elected over the next 4 years.
Yeah, and of course it wouldn't be any different. Donald Trump has never cared about the deficit at all. And as you say, he was the biggest spender, certainly one of the biggest spenders in American history, however you look at it in absolute terms, per capita, whatever. He was a huge spender. He slashed revenue for the government with his big tax cuts. He didn't offset it with any actual budget cuts. In fact, he doesn't like budget cuts. He wants to spend more. So he is absolutely the last person in the world you would ask to come in and fix a deficit. And that actually is true. You look at the cycle over the last 20, 30, 50 years, if you want to cut the deficit, elect Democrats. They're supposed to be the big spenders, but the deficits go down. And if you want bigger deficits and more debt, elect the Republicans. They just like to spend that money. And Donald Trump is certainly of that ilk.
The only time Republicans hear about deficits is when Democrats are in the White House. And then when they're in the White House again, you saw it under George W. Bush. You saw it under Donald Trump. Deficits explode at record rates. Willie, Willie, if you could, love for you to read this David French piece. I do want to circle back to David really quickly, though. And David, before we read your new piece for the New York Times, I just want to say, this is what's so maddening to me. The very things that made you and me conservatives, the very things that moved us to the Republican Party, the very things that made us believe that we were fighting for right, whether it was, I'm more boring, but balanced budgets, fiscal responsibility, taking care of taxpayers' dollars, giving them the best bang for their buck, making government as efficient as possible, having the local government do what the local government can do and what they can't let the state governments do and what they can't let the federal governments do. And in all of that, you're worried about individual freedoms, individual liberty, individual rights to go out, work hard, make a living, make a life where your kids have it better than you do and they have a better opportunity than you even had, right? That's gone, man. That is gone. And when I hear people talking about, oh, you're not a conservative anymore, it's laughable. Because what we're seeing now, we're seeing idol worship for I would say a guy. It's a party now. It's a party. They're not conservative. They're not fiscally conservative. They're not conservative on foreign policy. They've got two candidates that want to turn Ukraine over to the Russians. The antithesis of everything that Ronald Reagan fought for, that Republicans have always fought for. There is nothing conservative about this Republican Party. And, David, I just have to ask, if they lose again this year, is there... OK, here we go. If the question I was going to ask is, if they lose this year, is there a chance that they are going to go back to more tried and true Burkean, Reagan-esque conservative principles? By the way, what you're looking at now, direct from Joe's Twitter account, a little chart I made this morning after reading the op-ed. In blue, that is left-wing, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call him, Bill Ayers-loving, Reverend Wright-loving, left-wing, Marxist Barack Obama's deficit record. By the way, it goes down. It goes straight down. So all those things Republicans said about him, obviously not true. Now, if you look right after Barack Obama left office, by the way, 4 years pre-COVID, look at deficits under Donald Trump. David, they go straight up. That's not conservative.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's happening is you have MAGA has seized control of the Republican Party, intentionally transforming it radically, not just, of course, on a policy basis, but on a character basis, calling the old Republican Party the dead consensus. And if you object to it, they say, well, what happened to you? In other words, they're pulling the party away and accusing anyone who objects to it of being a traitor. And this has been the dynamic for 9 years now. And here's what's stunning, though, Joe. And I think some of your viewers just would be amazed by this. There are still many, many, many Republicans who don't realize how different MAGA is from traditional Republicanism. There's still many Republicans who believe they're voting for at least strong elements of the older party. And Trump benefits immensely from this, even as MAGA just keeps changing it.
So, David,
yeah, Willie, look at that.
Yeah, there it is. It's pretty clear, stark in that graphic there. You've got a new piece out for the New York Times, David, titled "To Save Conservatism from Itself, I Am Voting for Harris." In it, David writes this: while there are voters who are experiencing a degree of Trump nostalgia, remembering American life pre-COVID as a time of full employment and low inflation, there is a different and darker story to tell about Trump's first term. Our social fabric frayed. It's not just that abortions increased, the murder rates skyrocketed, drug overdose deaths hit new highs, marriage rates fell, and birth rates continued their long decline. Americans ended his term more divided than when it began. I'm often asked by Trump voters, David writes, if I'm still conservative, and I respond that I can't vote for Trump precisely because I am conservative. The only real hope for restoring a conservatism that values integrity, demonstrates real compassion, and defends our foundational constitutional principles isn't to try to make the best of Trump, a man who values only himself. If he wins again, it will validate his cruelty and his ideological transformation of the Republican Party. If Harris wins, the West will still stand against Vladimir Putin, and conservative Americans will have a chance to build something decent from the ruins of a party that was once a force for genuine good in American life. David, let you expand a little bit on that. This is something Joe talks about all the time. I'm still conservative. You guys were just talking about this standing right here. It's the party, the Trumpists, that have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just that the party's changed, but things have changed. So in 2016 and 2020, I voted third party. I wrote in. I could not vote for the Democrat. I definitely was not going to vote for Donald Trump. But there are some things that have changed since 2020. One of them was January 6th, which illustrated the lengths that Donald Trump would go, the destructive lengths to our own constitutional order that Donald Trump would go. And then the next year, when Russia invades Ukraine, you see the incredible stakes for the international order, for American national security. And on both of those just paramount issues, Trump is not just on the wrong side in many ways, especially here domestically. He's the instigator of the crisis itself. And so if you're dealing with changed events, I feel like it's incumbent on me to be open to changing my mind on at least one element of my stand, and that is, in this case, to vote for the party that at the very least is going to stand against Russian aggression. And Joe, saying that out loud, that I'm voting against a Republican to make sure that the United States resists Russian aggression is, again, one of those moments where you can't believe how much things have changed.
No, it's a surreal moment. And, I have explained to people before, I explained to Caddy when Donald Trump was president, that I've always had great faith in America, and many people say, and they do. Many people say that I'm too optimistic. It's too glass half full. But my feeling has always been that Madisonian democracy rounds off the sharp edges. That's why I said when Donald Trump was president, and people come up to me and go, "Oh, this is all about." Ideology. I said, no, you don't understand. I said it's about respecting constitutional boundaries. I'm fairly confident that everybody from Mike Pence to Bernie Sanders would respect constitutional boundaries. And if Mike Pence were president or Bernie Sanders were president, I'd worry much less than if Donald Trump were president, because, again, Madisonian democracy, checks and balances, a separation of powers, that rounds off the sharp edges. We could survive 4 years of somebody who's very conservative or very liberal. Our problem here is someone who just doesn't respect constitutional boundaries and brags about being authoritarian to his supporters. And the truth is, I agree with David. There are a lot of people who think that this is like Clinton versus Dole in 1996, but there are quite a few Republicans I've talked to that like the authoritarian streak in Donald Trump. They like the strongman approach.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Pence put his own life in danger. He put his family's life in danger in order to protect and defend the bounds of constitutional democracy. It's night and day from the former president, who is now running again, telling Christian conservatives, don't worry, you won't have to vote again in 4 years' time because I'll have it all fixed. And who knows, you know, Donald Trump says stuff that is random and makes no sense, and maybe it was just another thing he says that's random and makes no sense. But it's pretty striking when you have a candidate running for president of the United States who is telling his supporters, who is telling American voters, you will not have to vote again in 4 years' time. The implication being that there will not be an election in 4 years' time. Now, I'm one of those people who thinks that the American guardrails hold and that the courts are strong and the press is strong and that there will be an election in 2028. And there are an awful lot of Democrats who believe that there will be an election in 2028 because they want to run in 2028. But it is very different, and it's really all about Donald Trump. David, when you look at Kamala Harris's record as a conservative, and I know you've got probably fellow conservatives who are voting for her, and I know people in the conservative wing of the Republican Party who have endorsed her, and you look at her record on things like immigration or as a prosecutor in San Francisco, or what she has said about a single-payer health system, or what she has said about ending fracking in Pennsylvania, and I know she's reversed some of that, but they seem to be reflections of her liberalism. Is it hard for you to say that you're going to vote for her?
Yeah, it is, actually. I'm a little bit encouraged that in many ways she's moving closer to me, you know, disclaiming the defund the police stuff and the fracking bans, endorsing the border bill, for example. So in some concrete ways, she is moving more to the middle, and that is somewhat reassuring. But yeah, at the end of the day, if she wins the presidency, there are a lot of policy issues that we would disagree on, a lot of policy issues. There are some we'd agree on, such as support for Ukraine. But we can have, as Joe was just saying, we can have that conversation, and there are other elections I can vote in, like for Senate or for House, that can blunt the effect of her more left-wing policies. But we're doing it within the norms of American democracy, within the rules of American democracy. And then in the next election, if she's gone too far, I'll vote a different direction. But we can't treat this. This is a core element of my piece. We cannot treat this like a regular election where some of the regular policy issues dictate our vote. There are other frontline, top-tier issues like respect for American democracy, defending and maintaining American allies that are just at this very high level, and we can't pretend they're not there.
As David lays out in the piece, the Republican Party now unrecognizable from what it was just a few decades ago in terms of both foreign policy and some matters here at home. But really, the great question, the unanswerable question is, what happens next? Even if Donald Trump were to be defeated this fall, does that mean Trumpism? Does that mean the MAGA movement goes away? There are certainly some in the Republican Party who say, yes, we'll be finally rid of him. Let's move on. We'll rebirth this party into something new for 2028. I don't know there's a guarantee of that. He is still going to be the loudest voice in the party, most likely. Certainly, his running mate is set up to be a loud voice in his party going forward. The MAGA movement has captured so many state, local officials, state houses, Congress, the House of House of Representatives in particular. I don't know that even if Trump were to be defeated in November, that this would be said that the party would be able to rid itself of this movement. This is the party right now, the MAGA movement. And it might look a little different. It might have a different name atop of it in 2028. But I don't know that we could just take as faith that it'll go back to what it was.
Yeah, with tens of millions of regular supporters as well on board. As long as we're inside the editorial pages, the Wall Street Journal, Jerry Baker writing this morning, Trump is looking like a loser again, talking about the press conference last week that he calls false, obtuse, and lunatic. We're going to get into more of that from the Wall Street Journal in just a moment. Still ahead, we'll hear more from Donald Trump's 2-hour glitch-filled interview with billionaire Elon Musk, including what the former president had to say about a conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Morning Joe's back in just 90 seconds.
I'm out here telling people how Experian could help them save $800 on car insurance. Experian shops with over 40 top providers to find you a great policy, and they'll alert you if they find a better rate.
Great. Now I'll never have to shop for car insurance again.
Experian got your back.
Go to Experian.com/car.
Kids love summer break, but parents, well, Care.com makes it easy to find background-checked childcare that fits your summer schedule, from long-term to short notice. Give yourself a break this summer. Go to Care.com now.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to make it easier to drink less or to quit drinking altogether. Qualify for treatment today at orhealth.com.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 thumbs up. And now, buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, 2 months free. All with the same fast, reliable, nationwide coverage as Big Wireless. Make the switch today. Call, go online, or visit a store near you. That's 2 times the savings and our best deal of the year.
I never want to shop for car insurance again. And with the Experian Insurance Marketplace, I don't have to. They shop for me with over 40 top providers, and they alert me about better rates in the future. Free. I saved $800.
Go to Experian.com/car.
Beautiful live picture of the White House, sun up at 6:27 in Washington. And here in New York, former President Donald Trump and ex-owner Elon Musk engaged in a conversation last night on the platform with 1.3 million people listening on X Spaces at its peak. The event delayed for about 40 minutes by technical problems. Musk blamed a cyber attack, a claim that could not be verified, called into doubt by a number of experts. Once things finally did get underway, the pair spoke for more than 2 hours, with Trump doing most of the talking. Here's a little of what he had to say.
I hate to say this. The reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just non-productive. I mean, for whatever reason. They're not workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And they're coming into our country at levels that have never been seen before. I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way.
The highest level of diplomacy there.
Come on.
A little Valley Girl diplomacy there. Way. Wow.
Who was that? Who was Zappa? Which Zappa? Moon Unit Zappa was Valley Girl? Yeah. Was that?
I think so. Yeah.
Channeling Moon Unit there. That's pretty awesome. No way.
And he's so proud of his relationship with Vladimir Putin. Just won't come off that position. He loves the guy. So, John, I hope you didn't listen to all 2 hours, but we did listen to a bunch of it, mostly rambling, mostly Donald Trump talking once they did get it up and running. And again, just painting this American carnage, dark, dark picture of America contrasted with the enthusiasm and crowds we've seen from the Harris campaign.
Yeah, and shades of Yalta there with the diplomacy. No way between Trump and Putin. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Trump was not challenged once during this interview. Elon Musk has sort of remade Twitter X as to a sort of a very Trump-friendly platform. He has endorsed him, and he said ahead of time, I'll be up basking softballs. I want to have a conversation. It's about vibes. And that's what we got last night. A vibe established there by Donald Trump standing in front of a portrait of himself as he, in tennis gear, as he did this 2-hour Twitter Spaces interview. But I think you hit on something important. Vibes do matter right now. I mean, and that might not be enough to carry one side or the other until Election Day. But right now, it is a stark difference, Gene Robinson, where we're seeing footage night after night of the vice president and her running mate having these raucous, joyful rallies. People are laughing. People are smiling. They're dancing to Beyonce before she takes the stage. Trump, on the other hand, is this. It was a 2 hours. I mean, he was a little more controlled in his rhetoric last night than he has been on the rally stage. At times, he seemed to sort of slur his words a little bit. But he, you could see here, there with the portrait behind him. But he painted a very dark, dystopic picture of America, that the threats and danger lurking around every corner. And at least at this moment, it appears that that's not a message that's resonating with the actual voters who are going to decide this election.
Yeah, how can you imagine that people wouldn't resonate to that picture of that dark room with Trump's hair and that weird portrait in the tennis outfit in the background, which is just, talk about dystopic. Boy, I don't see how that's not really just turning voters on. It's incredible, the contrast right now, and it's driving Trump crazy. He's searching and searching and trying to find a way into the conversation because he's just sort of babbling into the void in a lot of instances. And we've seen the recent times when he goes out in public and just says foolish and nonsensical and ridiculous and worrisome things, worrisome about his own mental health. I guess if you want to look at it in political terms, maybe he was trying to get back the white dude vote, or to shore it up by doing this thing with Elon Musk, figuring that was the demographic he was going to reach. Kind of fans of Elon Musk and his political transformation or metamorphosis, whatever it was. But boy, if you sort of babble for 2 hours into the void, does it actually make a sound? I'm not convinced that it did. I was going to listen to the thing. I just gave up after 40 minutes when they couldn't make it work. So that kind of tells you a bit about the Elon Musk, Donald Trump show.
And Willie, it's impossible to set aside the nonsense, including at one point where Trump saw the Time magazine cover of Vice President Harris and said that she looked like Melania Trump. Yeah. But Dream makes a good point, though. There was a strategy behind this. It wasn't just to have an Elon Musk love fest. His campaign, in a briefing to reporters last week, they basically said, we feel like we can win this election by turning out new voters. And they believe those new voters are young men. Some white, but also young men of color who perhaps would be more influenced by an Elon Musk character, who we saw Trump do some TikTok videos last week with a twitchy streamer who drew like 500,000 views. They feel like that is one area, there's some fertile ground. And they think those voters might be more inclined to support him than Harris. He's trying to woo them. Unclear if last night was successful, but there at least is a game plan behind this. And
clearly surrendering some of the women voters that he's going to need, trying to make up ground with the men. So I mentioned the new column this morning from Wall Street Journal columnist Gerard Baker. It's titled, "Trump is looking like a loser again." In it, Jerry writes, quote, "We need to be clear about the problem. It isn't, as some have suggested, that Mr. Trump has been wrong-footed by the Democrats' switch from Mr. Biden to Ms. Harris, nor is it a reflection of accelerated degeneration. The Trump of the past few weeks has looked and sounded more or less exactly like the Trump of 9 years ago. This is the problem. It is this Mr. Trump who lost the presidency in 2020. It is this Mr. Trump who lost the House in 2018 and the Senate in the Georgia runoff election in January 2021. Instead of telling voters consistently and repeatedly what they are actually getting if they vote Democrat, he's merely reminding them what they will get again if they vote Republican." Joe, obviously, Gerard Baker makes clear he's no fan of Vice President Harris and her agenda. But he is saying if this is the Donald Trump we see through Election Day, according to Jerry Baker, he's going to lose.
And this is a concern that Republicans across the board are expressing right now. Some behind closed doors, some outwardly. I mean, we have clips of people who have been big supporters of Donald Trump through the years, sort of Trump media, far right-wing media, and basically encouraging Donald Trump to change tack. But Donald Trump famously said to those donors, "I am who I am." But I will say, David French, we always say it's early. January of last year, it's early. March, it's early. I was saying the same in June and July. Still early. I'm still saying it's only August. But I will say in August, it is getting awfully late for somebody like Jerry Baker to write a column like that. Because unlike you, he is not going to vote for Kamala Harris. And he probably will not vote for any Democrats. At the same time, he says what everybody's whispering, and that is Donald Trump, what did he say? Like 1/3 of what Donald Trump said in the press conference was delusional, outright false, et cetera, et cetera. So this is sort of, I don't know if it's a canary in a coal mine or what it is, but When you've lost Jerry Baker in mid-August as a Republican nominee, there's trouble brewing.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of Republicans right now are in a state of shock that the Trump campaign hasn't found its footing in taking on Kamala Harris weeks now after Joe Biden dropped out. So a lot of Republican confidence rested in this idea that there was this super professional Trump campaign, that even if Trump himself was undisciplined, then he at least could take on somebody like Kamala. He at least could take on, of course, Joe Biden. And a lot of people are gobsmacked that there hasn't really been an intentional strategy rolled out against Kamala Harris other than this sort of berserker Trump going from thing to thing to thing and even emphasizing her race. And so there's just this growing sense that, oh, wait, maybe there was not a plan B here and they're making this up on the fly. And you're beginning to see a lot of that coming out in commentary.
Yeah, the words Jerry Baker using in his piece, false, obtuse, or lunatic, in describing that press conference. The remarks that he made at the press conference at Mar-a-Lago the other day. New York Times columnist David French will be reading your new piece at nytimes.com. David, thanks so much. Up next, more on Elon Musk. Our next guest says the Tesla CEO is a danger to democracy. Ed Luce joins us with a look at his latest piece for the Financial Times when Morning Joe comes right back.
You can call it another lonely day. You can go your own way. Go your own way. Tell me why.
Look at this. I love my new body. I love my new shape.
This summer, feel confident in anything with Sonobello One Visit Permanent Fat Removal.
I saw the results immediately.
I feel amazing.
My waist is tiny. I'm very, very happy.
I'm nearly 50, and my abs haven't been this flat since before I had kids.
For a limited time, take advantage of Sonobello's best offer of the year. Call or go to sonobello.com.
It will change your life. It did for me.
Is your shower trying to tell you something? Is getting in and out of the bathtub becoming a safety concern? Are you worried about the cost of a bathroom remodel that could go on for weeks and weeks? Well, now you can have a gorgeous new bath or shower that's safer at a price you can afford with a one-day jacuzzi bath remodel.
It was done the same day. We did not have to wait. It is amazing.
Working with the jacuzzi design consultants, it was a seamless process, and there really is an option for everyone.
I would give this whole experience an A+. I definitely wish I would have called sooner.
Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for more than 65 years. So you know it's a brand you can trust, and their products come with a lifetime warranty for a style you'll love for years to come. Plus, there has never been a better time to buy. We're waiving all installation costs and postponing all payments for up to 1 year. There are so many designs to choose from, including my Christina Preferred collection. Plus, we offer free, personalized, in-home design services to build the bath you've always wanted, right in your own space. And let's talk about accessories. From soft close shower doors and adjustable shower heads to features like grab bars and custom seats that combine safety and style to keep you feeling comfortable and independent for years to come. Plus, cleanup's a breeze with no grimy grout and no scrubbing. It just rinses clean. It's never been easier. Get your free design consultation, schedule your one-day installation, and start loving your new bath or shower right away.
Call or go online right now for a limited time offer. Only weeks left to get waived installation and no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-991-1767. That's 800-991-1767. Call now.
Hi, I'm David, and I lost 92 pounds on Golo. My life partner Connie and I were in really rough shape regarding our health, and our doctors told us that we needed to lose weight. I saw a Golo commercial and I thought, we really need to try this. As the weeks went by, the weight came off. We learned to make healthy choices and be supportive of each other. Together, we've lost 170 pounds. Golo worked for us. Since losing weight on Golo, I'm feeling grateful and hopeful about the future.
Kids love summer break, but parents, well, Care.com makes it easy to find background checked childcare that fits your summer schedule, from long term to short notice. Give yourself a break this summer. Go to Care.com now.
Life with kids can be messy. Once Upon a Farm keeps it clean where it matters most. Organic, no added sugar, farm fresh blends for babies to big kids for wherever life takes you. From our farm to your fridge. Once Upon a Farm.
Super Beta Prostate is the #1 urologist recommended prostate supplement. And now you can find it in every Walmart nationwide. Don't ignore your prostate health. Get Super Beta Prostate.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that. During our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed and free delivery when you add any base.
We just signed the lease on our 3rd shop. My assistant went to customink.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at customink.com. We need a miracle.
Miracle every Thursday starting at 2:45.
I love you.
I know.
Find childcare that fits your schedule at Care.com.
Welcome back to Morning Joe. Just an absolutely beautiful look at New York City with the sun rising 6:42. Getting about halfway into August. It's great to have you here this morning. Crazy times. I mean, it's the last 2-3 months have just been breathtaking. Everything that's happened, and it is moving so quickly. We quoted Lenin, not John Lennon, but Vladimir Lenin yesterday, talking about how sometimes decades go by where nothing happened, and sometimes week goes by where decades happen. It certainly is where we are right now. Drudge is linking to a story this morning, a Time magazine story talking about one of the biggest vibe shifts in American history. You look at polling, it's moving very quickly. Again, let me say again, it's only August. Voters don't go to the polls. Early voting, I think, starts in earnest in about 3-4 weeks. So still early, but it's the end of the beginning. It's not the beginning of the end. It's the end of the beginning, as Winston Churchill would say. And so we're moving now into the days and weeks that really count the most. And every day that there's an additional, quote, vibe shift or a shift, as, again, Drudge links up to Time, is a day that people supporting Donald Trump, the campaign, have more to worry about. I saw something in the Financial Times that really underlined how much the political world is shifting underneath all of us right now. And that was a question about who Americans trust more on the economy. To talk about that, let's bring in national editor for the Financial Times, Ed Luce. Ed, Financial Times, University of Michigan asks, who do you trust more to handle the economy? Joe Biden always behind on that number to Donald Trump, sometimes double digits. Here, I know you were surprised as I was, and as surprised as so many other Americans were, but that number for the first time in this long campaign between Donald Trump and either Biden or Harris has shifted with the Democrats ahead by 1 point. It's a statistical tie, but again, even that is a massive shift.
Yeah, it is. And it's not as if there's been a dramatic change in people's economic fortunes in the last 3-4 weeks. It's roughly the same economy as when they were last asked the question. So I think this is all down to the sort of sense of energy and, dare I use that overused word, joy that we're getting from the Harris-Walz campaign that has just given people more confidence in Kamala Harris as somebody who can improve their prosperity. Because as I say, nothing has actually changed objectively in terms of the economic numbers or people's personal finances in the last 3 weeks. What has changed is the mood. And I think, we had, I guess, a vibe session while Biden was president. People just were not prepared to look at their circumstances in an upbeat light. And now they are, all of a sudden. And that's I guess, in a nutshell, what's happened across the board politically in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Ed, we've been talking a little bit this morning about Elon Musk and that conversation he had for more than 2 hours on X last night. And your new piece in the Financial Times is titled Elon Musk and the Danger to Democracy. In it, Ed writes this: the key question is what, if anything, democracies can do to address the danger from Musk. It is one thing having a newspaper proprietor or the owner of a television station pushing their biases in their outlets. This has always happened, and it's protected speech. I have no idea what the best legal remedy would be that was consistent with democratic and free speech values. I do know, however, Ed writes, that whatever he says, Musk is no fan of either. He revels in conflict and is fascinated by the possibility of collapse. He's a disaster capitalist, a vicious troll, and a brilliant engineer rolled into one. And Caddy K, obviously, this is also a man who has made very clear his intention to support Donald Trump, as he did, giving him an open forum last night to millions of people. Elon Musk is on the side of Donald Trump in this election.
Yeah, whether he's a brilliant engineer after that 40 minutes we all spent kind of listening to clanky music, I'm not quite so sure. Or maybe he's fired too many brilliant engineers and they couldn't get it working again. I mean, what do you think in terms of the impact on some voters who might have sat through that 40-minute glitch, Ed, last night and actually listened to the content of the interview? What impact do you think Elon Musk has sort of on voters in particular and on this election?
Well, you're right about the engineering. I mean, if you can't get spaces working, you know, you're going to have trouble settling Mars. Look, only about 1.3 million people listened to this. It took an age to begin, and I was one of those who did wait around for it to begin. And then, of course, it never ended. It just went on and on and on. It wasn't an interview. It was a very softball, quite eccentric conversation between a donor and his candidate. None of the tough questions were asked. I mean, Musk did try and sort of push some of his hobby horses, like controlling spending, which Trump would hear nothing of. Trump is not into controlling spending. But I think the net effect here is really just to confirm what we saw in Trump's press conference in Mar-a-Lago last week, and when he addressed the National Association of Black Journalists a couple of days before, which is that he isn't resetting. He's not a new Trump. He's not a disciplined, razor-like focused new candidate who is going to define Kamala Harris. He is, as somebody else made the analogy, he's like Spinal Tap on tour, an aging rock band on tour playing its greatest hits. I don't think he's going to come up with anything new.
Musk. So we have X and what he's doing to try to help Trump, and there's that impact that we should worry about, I think. But what I actually worry about is technology, not spaces, but space. SpaceX, the Starlink satellite network. It is extraordinary for one man to have such power, to have power over this unique network of satellites that has been, for example, crucial to the war effort in Ukraine, that he actually has the power to switch on and off. You know, the astronauts who are now up at the International Space Station may not be able to get home until one of Elon Musk's spacecraft, not one of NASA's, but one of Musk's, can go pick them up. So I'm concerned about that. What are your thoughts about his dominion at this point over the space realm?
I mean, it's remarkable. Starlink, as you say, he threatened to withdraw, and briefly did withdraw, Starlink services from the Ukrainian forces, who rely almost exclusively on it for on-the-ground communications in life and death battlefield situations. And he just applied the pressure on Ukraine. He basically wanted a better contract out of them. And so at a really key stage in the Russian special military operation, as Putin called it, Musk, of course, has also shown a great deal of sympathy for Putin. This kind of reliance on a mega oligarch, I mean, the richest man in the world, is, I think, an extremely dangerous one for democracy. My point about Musk's risk to democracy was also about X, his use of X. And my own country, as you know, has had race riots. It's had racist attacks on refugee communities based on false information that a Muslim refugee had killed these 3 girls a few days ago in the UK. Musk not only allowed the amplification of that misinformation, potentially lethal disinformation, but he retweeted and endorsed far-right people in Britain, far-right racist thugs, let's not mince our words about this, who he had reinstated on the site, on X, that helped generate riot situations on the ground. This is a proprietor tilting the disinformation playing field towards really bad actors. And so my concern is if he can do that in that kind of situation and saying things like civil war is inevitable, he wants conflict. If he can stoke racial conflict in situations like that, well, what can he do when push comes to shove in this U.S. general election? Now that he's explicitly endorsed Donald Trump, he can be an extremely consequential and bad actor. And I think we ought to pay a lot of attention to this. Musk is not well-intentioned when it comes to U.S. liberal democracy.
The new piece is at Financial Times website. U.S. national editor at the Financial Times, Ed Luce. Ed, thanks so much as always. Still ahead, Semaphor's Ben Smith joins us to talk about his new piece titled, Will Kamala Harris's Short Run Kill the Permanent Campaign? Plus, The Atlantic's George Packer breaks down what Democrats can learn from the trauma of the 1968 convention in Chicago. Morning Joe's coming right back.
Oh, man, I love a good hotel breakfast.
Same.
Yeah, so close to the stadium. I managed to get the last room for $190.
I booked the last room a week ago.
I booked yesterday. One night, $140.
What?
How?
Some sites panic you into booking their last room, but they don't have all the availability. Instead, use Trivago. Trivago compares hotel prices from hundreds of sites, so you can save up to $50 a night.
Well, at least I got the last ticket to the game.
So did I.
Hotel Trivago.
It's time to grow your business. Create a website. How? GoDaddy. Coding? Nah. But all that writing? Nope. AI. Done. Built.
Let's get to work.
Create a beautiful website in minutes with GoDaddy.
This is the one. She fixes, she manages, she perfects. Because maintaining this space transports her to this space. The industrial-grade product you need. Call, click, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
At Doan's, we know one thing and one thing only. Backs. Strained backs from weekend chores to pulled backs doing your favorite hobbies. We even know quarterbacks. Doan's, the experts in back pain relief for more than 100 years. Available at a store near you.
We need a miracle.
Miracle every Thursday starting at 2:45.
I love you.
I know.
Find childcare that fits your schedule at care.com.
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you? Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives. The most common side effects are respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions. It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist.
background-checked childcare that fits your summer schedule, from long-term to short notice. Give yourself a break this summer. Go to care.com now.
Many probiotics don't survive digestion. That means whatever you're taking for your gut probably isn't getting where it needs to go. Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic is the 2-in-1 prebiotic and probiotic engineered to survive and formulated to reduce bloating and intermittent constipation in as little as 2 weeks. Get started today with Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic. Visit seed.com to order now.
Welcome back to Morning Joe. It's Tuesday, August 13th. Jonathan Lemire, Caddy K, Eugene Robinson still with us as we come up on the top of the hour. And joining the conversation, NBC News and MSNBC political analyst, former United States Senator Claire McCaskill, and staff writer at The Atlantic, George Packer. His latest piece for the magazine is titled, What Democrats Can Learn from the Trauma of 1968, Joe.
Yeah, what a great piece. George, thank you so much for being, I want to get you in here. And this is resonates with me personally because I grew up in a family of lifelong Democrats, FDR Democrats. You walk into our house and they had a picture of FDR on the wall. my grandmom did, you know, my mom said he was like a king to them. And good, for good reason, because they struggled through the Great Depression. My grandmom and granddad had 4 children in the depths of the Great Depression in rural Georgia. So they were FDRs all the way. That changed in 1968. I was young, but I could see through my parents' eyes, you know, and it wasn't just the convention, but it was, you know, the assassinations, the conventions, the riots, the people burning their draft cards, burning the American flag. It was just all of this stuff that moved my parents to the Republican Party. And I love how you summed it all up. If you go back to 1968 and the riots in Chicago, the big winners were the anti-war left and Richard Nixon, because without the chaos in Chicago and without the mass defections, you know, Hubert Humphrey would have probably won the presidency, wouldn't he?
I think that's right. Historians, both at the time and since then, have said that the chaos in Chicago, which was later called a police riot, let's remember that the police instigated most of the violence in Chicago, filled TV screens. People were watching it in real time. I'd never seen anything like it in a televised convention while delegates were on the floor choosing a nominee. And those scenes shifted enough middle-of-the-road voters like your parents to give the election to Nixon because, as we know, it was an incredibly close election. It wasn't expected to be, but Humphrey closed the gap at the end and nearly won, and might have won without the loss of those centrist Democrats and independents, and also because of all the Democrats who stayed home and didn't vote or voted for Eldridge Cleaver because of Hubert Humphrey's association with the Johnson administration and the war in Vietnam. So the party was completely divided, tore itself apart both on the convention floor and in the streets. And it's kind of amazing that Humphrey came as close as he did, given the scenes that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and let's draw a comparison. Everybody catastrophizes about what happened last week, what happened last month, what's happened this year. And while we say all the time how quickly history is moving, and it's been a sort of, you know, we all had vertigo of sorts over the past couple of months. Still doesn't compare to 1968 that started with the Tet Offensive, the assassination of Martin Luther King, riots in American cities, over 100 American cities burning